Welcome to my live teaching learning session of BSOG 173 Rethinking Development. Today we will discuss about Unit 8 Environmental Perspective, which is also very important for the development and growth of the nation and the world. This is also in block number 2, Unit 8 Environmental Perspective. Now in Unit 8, Environmental Perspective, the main thing is, first of all, we will discuss about introduction. What is the meaning of environment? What is environment? What is the meaning of human-made environment, social environment, and what is the relationship between development and environment? Is both are positively related or contradictory to each other? Next is environmental perspective, in which we will discuss about classical perspective, sustainable development perspective, sustainable development, a discourse, and sustainable development, what is the meaning of this, and what are the basic requirements for the achievement of sustainable development, and what is the sustainable strategy which each and every country can follow for achievement of sustainable development. And last is criticism of the concept of sustainable development. And after that, we will conclude of the above this discussion. Now let us start from the topic introduction. Today we will discuss about environmental perspective, which is very important concept and also affects economic growth and development. In this unit, we will understand the environment and its related aspects, what the environment is, and what constitute this. Then we will discuss why and what for the environment is changing in due course of human action and interaction. Next section, we will discuss development and environment discourse, and then we will discuss the environmental perspective, which is the important thing for the achievement of development. So this is the today's session, all topics which we will cover in today's session. So first of all, we will discuss about what is environment. What do you understand by this concept environment? Environment means your surroundings, our surroundings, everything which is around us, both living and non-living, constitute our environment. So environment is a very broader concept in which all living and non-living things which is surrounding us, that is called environment. The word environment is derived from the French word envirner, which means to encircle or surround. Scientifically, what is surrounding and what does it consist of? That is two things. One is biotic factor and other is abiotic factor. And what are biotic factors? Biotic factors means we include all living things. All living things and organism, unicellular microorganism to multicellular organism like humans, animals, birds, insects, butterflies, etc. That all these things are called biotic factor or biotic main component in which all living things included. And second is abiotic factor. Abiotic factor means non-living things, that is soil, land, air, water, temperature, light, wind, etc. So environment consists of both these things, biotic and abiotic. And what is the meaning of environment? Environment is our surrounding, and everything around us, either it may be living things or non-living things, that constitute our environment. Next is, what is environment? According to this, environment is the surrounding in which an organization operates, including air, water, land, natural resources, flora, fauna, human beings, and their interrelationship. Surrounding in this context extend from within an organization to the global system. So environment is, in simple words, all living and non-living organism which are surrounding this thing that is called environment. So environment is the surrounding in which we are living. Next is types of environment. How many types of environment? There are so many types of environment, like natural environment, social environment, human made environment, and different types of environment exist in this world. So what is the meaning of first type of environment, that is natural environment? Natural environment is that environment which comes in its existence by its own naturally, without interference of humans. It operates through self-regulating mechanism, that is called natural, which is gifted by God. That environment is called natural environment, which is not under the control of human beings. Natural environment comes in its own existence or naturally, without any interference of the human beings, and it operates itself, or self-regulating mechanism, that is called natural environment. Now other is man-made environment. Man-made environment is also known as anthropogenic, and natural environment is known as homeostasis. So man-made environment is that environment which is modified by human activities. Scientific technology, which is result of human brain, is decorating the natural environment. So human made environment is made by human beings. It is clear by its name that it is created or it is modified by human beings and by human activities. And scientific technology, who invented scientific technology? Human brain. So scientific technology, which is the result of human brain, is decorating the natural environment. So human beings are also playing very important role, either degrading the environment and upgrading the environment. So man-made environment is also very important type of environment. Next is human impact on the natural environment. You know that at present in whole world population is increasing. At present in whole world near about 8 billion people are living. So environment impact refers to the alteration of the natural environment by human activity. The term human environment designates the impact of human activity. There are two basic kind of environmental impact: resource depletion and pollution, which hampers the sustainable development. Population and consumption are the two main forces accelerating resource depletion and pollution. It means one is increasing population, inversely impact on natural environment, and second is pollution, as well as we are moving towards on the path of development. We are increasing industrialization process, we are increasing urbanization, industrialization and modernization. We are using modern technologies for the production of goods and services. But when we are moving on industrialization, then pollution is also increasing and environment is degrading. So there are two basic kinds of environmental impact by human activities, that is increase in population and increase in consumption. These are the two main forces which accelerating the resource depletion and pollution. That is the main impact on the natural environment, and this impact is called man-made activities impact. Human activities affect the environment in a positive or in a negative both way. Human use many resources. Humans rely on the environment because environment is surrounding us and use renewable and non-renewable resources. Human beings are using at present all the available natural resources, human resources, and physical or capital resources. So human relies on the environment and use renewable and non-renewable resources. Renewable resources are those resources which can be regenerate, remake, and non-renewable resources are those resources which can't be regenerate or remake. But human beings are using both the resources for their satisfaction of their needs or wants. Pollution endangers biodiversity. Pollution means addition of harmful substances like chemicals, bacteria, dirt to the environment, like soil, air, and water, all are polluting. And biodiversity is the number and variety of life forms within an ecosystem. Pollution decreases this biodiversity. Habitat loss endangers biodiversity. If living space is limited or a food sources is removed due to pollution, then the number of species in a biological community will be reduced. It's a very common thing that if we have very limited space available for living and food sources is removed due to pollution, then how large number of species can survive? They can't survive. So the number of species in a biological community will be reduced. That's why human activities are affecting greatly to the environment. And human activities may be affect to the environment in a positive way and in a negative way. If human activities increasing pollution, if human activities exploiting all available non-renewable resources in a rapid way, then environment will be degraded and environmental depletion and pollution will increase. So pollution and human activities endanger for biodiversity And biodiversity loss is a big loss. That is the main reason, which is based on the human activities, which affects the environment. Now, next is social environment. Social environment is also the main type of environment. It's a type of environment in which it is directly related to the immediate physical setting in which people live or in which something occurs or develops. It is the environment in which an individual gets education, lives, and attract with different kind of institution. You know that human beings, we all are living in a social environment. We all are living in an environment which surrounds us. And social environment is also a type of environment in which it is directly related with human beings and whole society. Where people live or in something occurs or develop. That is called social environment. Our social environment also affects natural environment. If people gets education, their living standard is simple and they are not degrading the environment, it means they are giving more contribution in the protection or saving the environment. So social environment affects natural environment. Next is economic environment. Economic environment is that type of environment which is the combination of different kinds of economic factors which have effect on the working of the business is called economic environment. Economic means economic activities are those activities which are related with money. And economic environment in this we include all business organizations, all producing sectors, which helps in creating the capital formation, which helps in the development of the economy. So, economic environment is the combination of different kinds of economic factors which have effect on the working of the business is called economic environment. It can be affected by changing buying behavior of people, consumers, and institutions. So economic environment in this we include all the manufacturing sector, all the industrial sector, all services sector, all agriculture sector which are producing goods and services which are giving contribution in GDP of the nation and also affecting the environment. So these are the different types of environment in which we have studied that first type of environment is natural environment. Second is man-made environment. Third is social environment. And fourth is economic environment. So these are the main types of environment. Now, next is what is the relationship between environment and development? You know that environment and development both are interrelated concept, and sometimes they are contradictory to each other, because if countries are moving on the path of development and they are using modern technologies for increasing their output level, in this case, pollution will also increase. That is called externality, because the one person action, if it affects the other, it may be positive or it may be negative. That is called externality. Externality is the concept which is always occur due to the human activity or one person activity. If one person activity affects the other, it may be affect to the other person in a positive way or in a negative way. That is called externality. So natural resources are needed for the production of goods and services. And natural resources are like land, air, water, minerals, timber, fruits, vegetation. These all are known as natural resources. And environment damage or depletion has implication for future growth. Natural capital is equals to productive base. Natural, which is given by God, which is given by nature, that capital is the main source of producing goods and services. And if environmental quality is reducing, pollution is increasing, it also impacts on the standard of living of the country people, and their life expectancy will also reduce. If environment will be polluted, then life expectancy will decrease. And due to decrease in life expectancy, our rank in HDI will also fall because life expectancy is the main component of human development index. So nutrition, sickness, death will decrease the productivity level. Women's status, time spent in fetching water, fuel, that will also impact the environment. And livelihoods depends upon natural resources like fisheries. So all these development and environment both are interrelated with each other. If we want to achieve higher growth rate of development, then we should use all the available resources in such a way that environmental degradation will not exist. If we are developing our economy at the cost of environmental degradation, environmental pollution, that will reduce our environment quality and also impacts on standard of living and productivity level of the goods and services. Next is environment is one of the essential decisive factor exerting influence on developmental possibilities. The diversified strategies of development must be applied in urbanized, industrialized, and rural areas differently. For example, different methods of development must be done in coastal areas that can't be used in hilly or bare areas. Hence, it is society, culture, and geographically specific. However, development in an economic growth context, the quality and accessibility of natural resources of raw material and energy are significant. It means environment is one of the essential things that influence the developmental possibilities, and the diversified strategies which is used for development. For example, urbanization is also contribute in the growth of the nation. Industrialization is also necessary for the growth of the country, and rural areas where people are engaged in agricultural activities, that is also play very important role in the development process, because if agriculture sector will not develop, then how we can develop our industrial sector, because agriculture provide raw materials to the manufacturing sector. So all play very important role in development of the country. So development uh, development can be done in a different ways and different methods of development can be used in different geographical and different areas. Some areas are coastal areas, some are hilly areas, some are bare areas, some are geographically different, and the society, culture, and geographically they have so many differences, so that the development in an economic growth context, the quality and accessibility of natural resources and raw material and energy play a very important role in this process of development. Next is four principles of sustainable development. You know that sustainable development is that type of development in which uh, we uh, we fulfill the need of the present generation without compromising the need of the future generation. Our sustainable development has four principles, that is decision making process. Decision making process should depend on the best available scientific information and risk analysis. In case of uncertainty and threat of serious risk, the precautionary or protective principle should be involved. Environmental impact should be taken into account, especially in case of non-renewable resources. Because non-renewable resources can't be regenerated, so we should use ideally and without wasting these resources and in a very good way, so that our economic growth can be achieved and sustainable development can also be achieved in a systematic way. And polluters should be responsible for the effect of their activities according to polluters pay principle. If polluters are polluting the environment, they have to pay more. Government should impose more taxes on the emission of chemicals or gases or harmful gases which hampers the environment. So polluters should be responsible for effects of their activities according to the polluters pay principle, that is called PPP. In economics, this 3P denotes purchasing power parity. But here, in case of environmental perspective, this triple P concept has different meaning. This triple P explain that polluters pay principle. High pollution, it means high penalty should impose by the government, and if polluters are less polluting the environment, then less penalty should be imposed. So these are the four principles of sustainable development. Now next is, if we understand development in sustainable development, the quality of the environment and its sustainable condition will become one of the key priorities. The impact of development on the environment can be studied in two ways. One is positive and other is negative. Positive impact, positive impact construction of smaller water dams, environment friendly technologies, and allied development activities or initiatives will be positive for the environment. It means if we use environmental friendly technologies like eco-friendly technologies or green technologies for the production of goods and services, then environmental will not be polluted. And if we construct smaller water dams, and in this case if developmental initiatives will be taken by the government in a positive way, that will affect our economic growth in a positive way, and environmental will not be degraded. Such an impact of development and its effect will enrich the landscape in a socio-cultural context and bring sustainable development and the use of environment for the present generation and for the future generation. So, if we use all the available resources in a optimal way without any excessive extraction or exploitation of resources, if we use green technology, environment friendly technologies, and construct smaller water dams and took developmental initiatives, then it will definitely give the positive impact on environment, and it will also save our future generation needs as well as present generation needs. Both generation needs can be satisfied, and if both generation needs can be satisfied, that will be called sustainable development. Now next is negative impact. How human activities can be negatively affect the environment. Negative impact: the construction of large scale transport infrastructure, great water dams, cities, mining of natural resources, of raw material and energy leads to a negative impact of development. If we are developing our economy with the help of these things like construction of large scale transport infrastructure, great water dams are built up, more cities are increasing, mining of natural resources of raw material and energy leads to a negative impact on the development. So these impacts affects the environment like fragmentation of natural habitats, loss of fertile land area or soil degradation, pollution of the environment, local climate changes, and many more. So these are the negative impact of development. Next is environmental perspective. What is the meaning of this environmental perspective and how it affects the growth and development of the country? The environment is determined by how we perceive and treat it in our day to day life. The perception and perspective of people on the environment and their theorizing development relationship with nature and traditionally divided into four categories. One is stewardship, next is imperialism, next is romanticism, and next is utilitarianism. These four perspectives are still relevant to the environment today. These are the classical perspective which are introduced by different classical theorists, and they made the relationship between the nature and the traditionally these theories are divided into four categories. So we will discuss all these theories which are given by classical thinkers in context of environmental perspective. First perspective is stewardship. The perspective of stewardship means that humans hold an absolute privilege and responsibility about their environment. This perspective narrates or states that it is our duty, being a human, to look after all living things and treat them with respect. Such an attitude is prevalent within certain Christian and Jewish societies, and there are many biblical references following this behavior. Since nature is supposed as sacred, traditional stewards are often against science and technology because they are involved in controlling nature. That's why this perspective of stewardship, which said that the human who hold all the things, and human beings should hold an absolute privilege and responsibility about their environment. This perspective said that it is our duty as human beings to look after all living things and treat them with respect. In this case, environment will not be degraded and we can achieve sustainable development. Next is imperialism. Imperialism is the second classical perspective regarding environment. It is deep rooted in Jewish and Christians' religion and its stewardship. However, imperialists support the view that God has given human as a right to control nature and feel that nature and God are separate. In contrast, stewards feel that a sacred bond exists between nature and God. Imperialists believed that God would give them respect if they are subduing the earth and controlling nature. In historical point of view of imperialists and their culture, plant and animals sacrifice are essential to God. So, imperialist theory believed that God has given some special powers, some special rights to the human beings, and human beings can control nature and feel that nature and God are separate. And imperialists believe that God would give them respect if they are subduing the earth and controlling the nature. That is the believed of the imperialism theorist. Next is Romanticism. Romanticism, by the end of 18th century, a cluster of artists, poets, and writers adopted the imperialistic view that nature must be controlled and managed. The new industrial landscape, geometrically sculptured gardens, and considered as detested by the Romanticism. For their sake, environment and its values are not considered by the Romanticism. However, imperialists give importance and value to the environment, which is what humans. Further, instead of observing nature as ugly and dangerous, Romanticism became excited about the beauty of nature by treating it just like God. Nature is beautiful when it is in its purest state, unaffected by humans, as explained by the Romanticism. It means at the end of the 18th century, Romanticism said that Romanticism in this cluster of artists, poets, and writers adopted this approach. They said that nature is very beautiful. If human does not interfere in nature and without exploiting this nature, unaffected by human beings, then it will remains very beautiful and it is in its purest state, which is explained by Romanticism. So, according to their approach, human beings play very important role of degrading the nature and exploiting the resources and hamper the nature. So, nature should be protected, natural resources should be protected for the achievement of growth and development. Next approach is that is the fourth approach of environment, that is utilitarian. Utilitarian or hedonist is the fourth perspective to understand nature. In this perspective, life is considered happy and contentment and can't be comprehended beyond human feelings. Here, happiness and contentment are the essential things in life. It does not matter which can appreciate these feelings or not. Humans are more capable of experiencing such feelings. Hence, they should be valued above everything. Animals may have value because they feel pleasure and pain. But plants and trees having no feelings and only means to earn. However, there are several reasons why trees, plants, and the environment are essential to the utilitarian. So this approach is also very important approach in environmental perspective that is related with uh, happiness and contentment. And happiness and contentment are the essential things in life. It doesn't matter which can be appreciate your feelings or not. You know that human beings have God gifted power. They can realize, they can express their feeling, they can experiences these feelings. Hence, they should be valued above everything. Same as some animals may have value because they can also feel pleasure and pain. But some non-living things and some other things can't experiencing this feelings and happiness and contentment. So utility approach and utilitarian perspective of the environment mainly emphasize that who can feel, they can make the relationship between happiness and contentment, and that is life should be based life should be based on happiness and contentment, and so that if we want to feel happy, then we should protect our nature or natural resources, so that nature should also remain good, which is gifted by God. We have no right to exploit this nature for our own sake rapidly, and we should not hamper the nature, and that's why we can achieve this development goal or sustainable development goal. Next is sustainable development perspective. Sustainable development perspective. In 1972, the United Nations Conference on Human Environment took place in Stockholm, Sweden. The Stockholm Conference was historical because environmental problems received formal recognition for the first time at the global level. The modern industrial societies could realize that there is only one world. It also recognized that environmental problems and global problems requiring international solution. Because sustainable development, this perspective is very important because in this we include environmental protection, and we include the optimal use of all the available natural resources in such a way so that our present and future generation both needs can be satisfied without any uh, compromising. So Stockholm conference, that was very historical conference because at the first time in a global level this environmental problem received formal recognition, and all industrial society or modern industrial society realizes that we are living in a one world, and it also recognized that environmental problems are the global problems and we should find out the solution at global level. So if we find out the solution of these problems, then globally we can achieve this sustainable development goal. Next is then in 1981, the concept of sustainable development appeared for the first time. It was enshrined in the title of a key document, World Conservation Strategy, Living Resources Conservation for Sustainable Development. It was published by the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. The World Wildlife Fund, it means WWF, World Wildlife Fund, and UN, United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP. In 1983, the United Nations set up the World Commission on Environment and Development, headed by Gro Harlem Brundtland. WCED. WCED is World Commission on Environment and Development. It is set by United Nations. In which year? 1983. Headed by Gro Harlem Brundtland, who was the Prime Minister of Norway, as an independence body. Its objective was to re-examine the critical environment and development problems on the planet and to formulate realistic proposals to solve this problem and to ensure that human progress will be sustained through development without bankrupting the resources of the future generation. The WCED, World Commission on Environment and Development, published its report titled Our Common Future, and this report was published in 1987. So this sustainable development concept bring in whole world by this conference in first of all in 1972, after that in 1981 this concept of sustainable development appeared for the first time, after that in 1983 in World Commission on Environment and Development, which is set up by United Nations and headed by Norway's Prime Minister Gro Harlem Brundtland as an independence body. He re-examined the critical environment and development problems to the planet and to formulate realistic proposal to solve them and to ensure that human progress will be sustained through development without hampering the resources for the future generation. And he published his report in 1987. Next is modern technology, the factory system of production, rapid industrialization, urbanization, and the quality of this economic growth model of development. The Western countries initially followed the model of development and prescribed it for the less developed ones. In due course of time, they will follow the same path of industrialization for the development uncritically. The consequences of adopting the Western model of development by the less developed countries were not all possible. Because economic growth occurred, but a widened gulf or gap between the countries accompanied in it the North and the South. And it also helped to promote economic disparities or economic inequalities between the rich and the poor section of the society within particular societies. It was realized that development conceived only as economic growth was an inadequate notion. So, if we are using modern technologies and adopting the factory system of production and rapid industrialization and urbanization for the achievement of growth and development. We are following the path of development, and we are following the Western countries model for the development. But it does not always equally benefited to less developed countries. It means the Western model for development and prescribed model for development, which is prescribed by the Western countries, that is not necessarily good for the underdeveloped or developing countries also. So, the consequences of adopting this Western model of development by the least developed countries were not all positive. Next is the modern industrial form of production induced increasingly severe degrees of social inequality, growing environmental instability, and degradation. This modern form of production, or by the use of modern technologies for increasing industrialization and rapid use of all the available resources, are definitely giving contribution in the achievement of economic growth, but it also increasing several degree of inequalities and growing environmental instability and degradation also, which together have more recently been conceptualized as the crisis of modernity. And the environmental degradation has also occurred is marked by a large scale environmental perspective. Environmental perspective said that extraction of or excessive utilization of uh, finite natural resources, which is available in a limited quantity, not in unlimited quantity, the loss of forest, extinction of animals and plant species, and depletion of the ozone layer, air, water, and soil pollution, loss of marine life and biodiversity, etc., have occurred at an alarming rate and have posed a severe threat to the very survival of life of this planet. So, crisis of modernity is the crisis of environment, is the crisis of disaster, natural disaster, crisis of loss of environmental protection. So, environmental perspective, this tells us that if we excessively use all resources, then if there is existing loss of forest and extinction of animal, plant and species and depletion of ozone layers, and if there is existing air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution or soil degradation, loss of marine life and biodiversity, if all these things are occurring with the economic growth, it means that is the loss of sustainable development goal. It means we are achieving economic growth at the cost of environmental degradation. So, we should use all the available resources in a optimal way or in a limited way, because resources are finite in numbers, they are not available unlimited. But as well as population increasing and their consumption level is also increasing, it will create a very big problem for whole the country, for whole the world. Next is due to the strategies adapted for economic growth, environmental degradation and exploitation of natural resources have become global phenomena. Eventually, the increasing awareness of environmental problems has led to the emergence of environmentalism. It is important to note that environmentalism has added an essential dimension to the ongoing development discourse. So, strategies should be adopted for economic growth as well as strategies should be adopted for securing the environmental also. Because we can secure our environment by increasing the awareness of environmental problem, and that will also help in environmental protection. Because at present, environmental perspective is not a local phenomena or in a country phenomena, it's a global phenomena. So, the increasing awareness of the environmental problem has led to the emergence of environmentalism. And it is very important to note that environmentalism has added an essential dimension to the ongoing development discourse. Next is sustainable development. You know that sustainable development means is that it is a concept of development that meets the need of the present generation without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their need. Here, sustainable development, definition, meaning, requirements, policy objectives, sustainable strategy, all these things are related with sustainable development. Sustainable development requires the basic needs of all and extending to all the opportunities to satisfy their aspiration for a better life. The promotion of values that encourage consumption standards that are within the bounds of the ecological, possible, and to which all can reasonably aspire that societies meet human needs both by increasing productive potential and by ensuring equitable opportunities for all demographic developments are in harmony and peace with the changing productive potential of the ecosystem. Sustainable development, there are four types of policies through which we can achieve this sustainable reviving growth. Second is changing the quality of growth. Third is meeting essential needs for jobs, food, energy, water, sanitation. And fourth is ensuring a sustainable level of population, conserving the resources, and reorienting technology and managing the risk and merging environment and economics in decision making. These are the main policy objective which can be used for the achievement of sustainable development. Sustainable development, a development strategy in which political system that secure effective citizens participation in decision making, an economic system that can generate surpluses and technical knowledge to a self-reliant and sustained basis, a social system that provide for solution to the tensions arising from disharmonious development, a production system that respect the obligation to preserve the ecological base for development, and a technological system that can search continuously for new solution. Now, criticism of this approach is some theorists criticize this approach. He remarks that development and sustainability are incompatible with each other, they are contradictory as well. In other words, sustainability is not development. Now, we can conclude from this today's session that in this unit we have discussed the meaning of environment and the relationship with the development. We analyzed the environment perspectives in terms of classical perspective and sustainable development perspectives. In this section, we also discussed meaning, requirement, objective, policy objective, and strategies, and the criticism of sustainable development. So in today's session, we have discussed all environmental perspective which is related with development. Thank you.